Why do you not slay me?
Fought only to save my friends, who are prisoners in Ming's palace.
Then you're not an ally of Ming's.
I'll say I'm not. Been trying to kill me ever since I landed here.
I am Thun, Prince of the Lion Men. Ming is also my enemy.
And I'm Flash Gordon from the Earth.
You have spared. I will help you free the prisoners of whom you speak.
I'll need plenty of help. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We're your hosts, Jordan and Kumar. That's me.
Jordan's alive!
Oh, we did it this time. 2 years later, we've been waiting to do that. This week we are talking about Rocket Ship from 1938, which is actually based on Flash Gordon. Was maybe the European release name for it. Get into all this business.
This will be difficult to untangle, but yes. So it was. It's a stripped down version of a movie serial. This is the first serial we've done, isn't it?
Yes, because I said episode 1 we're not going to do any serials because we don't have time to watch 4 hours. Sit down and watch 4 hours in a week.
That's right.
Maybe someday we'll get around to some of them, but
yeah, well, possibly eventually.
Fortunately, in this case, we have a cut down, condensed version,
which I'm pretty sure it had cinema releases too.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Possibly even in the US. I did read a source that said this. Wikipedia says that it was only released abroad. Okay. I think, but I read a book, an actual non-fiction book called "Serials: Suspense and Drama by Installment" by Raymond William Steadman, and he thought that it was actually had a theatrical release in the US to coincide with. A film called
the sequel?
No, actually, a Universal film called Mars Attacks the World that was developed quickly to capitalize on the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast.
I think the word capitalizing is going to come up a lot because it seems to be the number one strategy. In fact, it probably hasn't changed. I mean, it's interesting that Flash Gordon was created, the comic strip was created to compete with the Buck Rogers comic strip, and yet Flash Gordon got to the screen first and had 3 serials, and Buck Rogers only had 1, all starring the same guy. It's very much like a lot of Marvel DC stuff, like we saw when DC rushed that Justice League movie out there, and also seeing guys go from like the Sony movies to the Marvel movies. We've seen that happen a few times. I was like making fun of Buster Crabbe for being in Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon while the Flash Gordon movies are coming out, but actually, Michael B. Jordan was only a few years apart, really.
So that's it. People think that this kind of rapacious, incestuous capitalism is a modern phenomenon, and that the 30s was a simpler time. No, you're wrong.
No,
it was exactly the same.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to very briefly cover the comic strip, because if you do want to hear more about that, go back, listen to episode 10.
Amazing.
On Flash Gordon.
More than 100 episodes ago.
Yeah, really. So basically, as I said, it was created to compete with Buck Rogers. It started in 1934. Alex Raymond, the artist, left in 1944 to join the Marines. And then it was taken over by replacement artists. When he came back, King Features didn't want to put him back on it because this guy Austin Briggs was working on it. They didn't want to kick him off. So they basically gave him a different strip. I think it was Rip Kirby was the one that Alex Raymond started after that. Various people, but it ran until 2003. Various people worked on it, including Harry Harrison. I learned this week that Harvey Kurtzman had done some writing on it, which is very strange pairing. I didn't know that Harvey Kurtzman did anything but humor comics. So some of the stuff we covered last time is that basically there's a pattern to these stories. So Flash ends up on this other planet, Mongo. This is it's initially described as a comet that's going to crash into the Earth. And then we get some racist depictions of the first people we see react to this are Africans and Arabs giving up. We give up. The world is done. There's a crazy scientist, Zarkov, who's working on a rocket which he's planning to use to deflect the comet.
Yeah.
For some reason, nobody else is working on a project to deflect this comet. He's the only guy, this one crazy scientist.
Everyone else is giving up.
I don't know. We don't
People are
hear
just
about we
really-
don't hear about other scientists. Well, we know.
Well, I mean, every other human seems to be giving up. From the quote
we know
unquote howling blacks of the African jungles.
Yeah, well, we know all the non-whites are giving up.
Oh, we see people panicking
we do see
in New York, I think.
But they're just hanging out. They're not like praying to the gods.
They're not howling
for mercy.
They're
No.
praying to Mecca.
Meanwhile, a Yale graduate and polo player named Flash Gordon is on an airplane with a woman named Dale Arden, who's a passenger, as we discussed. That plane crashes right outside Zarkov's lab. Zarkov says, and I was mistaken, but last time I said I thought that Zarkov said I need a pilot for this thing. No,
that's what it is in the film.
He wants 3 martyrs for science. He says, we're going to be martyrs for science, we're going to kill ourselves.
He forces them on the plane at gunpoint.
Yeah, he's like, you're spies.
Yeah, first he says you're spies.
You're spies. Now you're going to die martyrs to science. They rocket up to Mongo. They crash land.
Not before Zarkov panics and Flash himself has to take over.
Zarkov panics. He's like, no, I can't allow myself to die. We have to live. And Flash is like, no, we're going to die. Shut up, man. And he beats them up so they can all crash to their deaths. But actually, him and Dale survive. He carries her to safety. There's no mention of what happened to Zarkov at this point. Also, there's never any mention of whether this crash deflected the comet or not, which turns out to be a planet Mongo. And also, there's no question of what did Mongo feel about the fact that they were going to crash to their doom. Never mentioned.
We never hear about that.
Never hear about any of that stuff. And basically, they're captured. Oh, first a dinosaur appears and attacks Flash, but another dinosaur appears
and attacks that dinosaur. And then a fleet of rockets appears and attacks both the dinosaurs.
That's right. And then they're captured by soldiers of Ming the Merciless. And then Ming's like, oh, I want this hot woman to be my bride.
It's literally the first thing he says.
Yep. And then he throws Flash Gordon into an arena. And now we get and then Ming's daughter, Aura, falls in love with Flash just from seeing him fight in this arena.
Yep. Much as Ming fell in love with Dale as soon as he laid eyes on him.
Yes. And actually, by strip number 7 weeks in, these are Sunday strips, when Flash finds out that Dale's in trouble, he says, that's the woman I love. Now, at this point, she's been captured. He's been elsewhere. He's never had a conversation with this woman. What kind of music does she like? What does she like to do in the evenings? How does she act when she sees homeless people? Do you know anything about this woman, Flash? Not one thing. He knows her name.
That's all he knows.
And I don't even know when that conversation happened, actually, where he figured out her name. But now we get the basic pattern, which is that Flash is captured by a race.
Yeah.
This race will be lion people or bird people. They will have different colored skin.
Yes.
Blue, green, yellow.
This is a very early 20th century preoccupation with the way people are colored.
Yes.
And that determining how they behave.
That's right. And every time they see him, they say, oh, a white man. But he's not white, as we discussed last time.
No,
he does not have
there's no
white
reason for them to say that he's white. I mean,
they are blue, green, purple, etc. Why would they say you are white? Doesn't make any sense in the context of their skin colors and them being aliens who've never apparently seen a man like this. He will be taken prisoner by a queen who will want to marry him.
Yep.
Or Dale will be taken prisoner by a king that wants to marry her.
Yep.
This is very consistent. There will be lots of fights. His shirt will fall off.
Yes.
Or will be taken off, much like James T. Kirk.
Fascinating.
And he will escape and then have to fight wild creatures. And then some character that we'd forgotten about, like Zarkov, will suddenly reappear.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, he's back.
That's it. He'll usually have to compete in an arena of some kind.
Yes. Yep. And he's usually coming in as the White Savior. They're in some trouble there. They need help getting out of this issue. As you pointed out last time, the White Savior. Also, he is a conqueror for no reason.
Yeah.
He can just go live somewhere. But, like, he's granted
He has to have a kingdom.
He has to have a kingdom. No given reason. He's a polo player. Why does he need a kingdom? Don't know. But that basically is how the comic plays out. And as I pointed out last time, by the time we get to year 2, initially Raymond was drawing based on... he was just drawing out of his head, but then he started using models, and then he became probably second only to Hal Foster in the absolute gorgeousness of the art. There's so much detail in like the costumes and stuff, and people actually, apparently fellow cartoonists were saying like, don't put that much detail in there, it's not worth it. And he was like, no, I'm gonna draw all
You're making us all look bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, coming back to this comics, I think I listened to the episode we recorded 2 years ago as well, And I was not super impressed with this comic at the time.
Yeah.
Coming back to it after having done dozens of much worse comics.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, just thought, wow, I don't remember the art being this good.
Yeah.
And this is just before he really started to nail down his style in year 2 as well.
Right. So basically the stories are very repetitive. The stuff looks beautiful, but everything is called a ray beam or a melto ray or heat ray or some very bland names. They haven't come up with cool names for this stuff yet. That's kind of one of the things that is bringing up the blandness, if I could put it that way. It's like is making
it's essentially a kind of fantasy comic.
Yes.
With a light layer of science of technical lingo, or technical is not even the right word.
Yeah.
A light layer of science fiction style lingo over the top. I mean, it's essentially kind of something like Gulliver's Travels or something like that.
Yes, very much so.
He's wandering around and encountering fantastical beings in fantastical situations, and we've just slapped the word ray gun on it.
Yes, exactly. Very much.
Like rocket ships instead of sailing ships.
Yes, I think even up to Star Trek Original Series, it was a little bit like that. They would end up on a planet, but it was really a Gulliver's Travel type situation where they were just in another fantastical country.
Wagon train to the stars.
Yes.
There's I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's one reading of Star Trek is that it was not particularly innovative and mostly existed to reuse sets that Desilu had around.
Oh.
Like the Western set and the New York set.
Right. Oh, interesting. That makes so much sense, actually, now you mention it. But this definitely was a huge hit, and
this comic
seemed to be outpacing Buck Rogers.
Certainly did. Yep, very much so. By the Buck Rogers, I think more like big hit in the maybe even in the like late 1920s.
Okay,
early 30s. So its star is on the wane.
Right.
By the time,
but also they don't have Alex Raymond on art.
Right.
I mean,
I think Alex Raymond is not. I don't think a science fiction author. He's writing these early strips. Later on, he's kicked off.
Yeah, within like a year, he was kicked off.
But he kept on doing the art. But he set the tone, and I don't think he knows that he's not. I mean, it's just a pastiche.
Yes.
He's writing Tarzan Jungle Jim and Secret Agent X9 at the same time.
Yeah.
He's not focusing, he's not like trying to push the boundaries of what this new style of writing can achieve. Yeah. He's just slapping a ray gun on Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah. Yes. Is there? So the thing we didn't mention about Ming, if you can guess from his name, he is Yellow Peril.
Yeah, he's
Asiatic menace.
Asiatic,
all his men have names like Ming Chu and things like that. Yeah. It's really very obvious. Did you want to say anything else about the comic before we move on?
No, we can move on. Yeah.
Okay. So before we start on the serials, I need to add 2 corrections to our previous episode on Flash Gordon. Not corrections, but additions. Now, that was recorded pre-Bell. So you had gotten the bell for Christmas. Before that, we never rang the bell. We mentioned Dune about probably 10 times in that episode for various seasons. But amazingly, there were 2 things we did not mention. One of them, which I did not know at the time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that movie was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr., a name that's familiar to most people for being the writer on Batman 66. He also wrote the Batman 66 movie, so we'll be seeing him again.
Cool.
He did a draft of Dune in 1973.
Right.
Yeah.
Bring that.
Yeah. What a weird choice. I don't remember who the producer was on that version of Dune, that they thought the guy that wrote Batman is the guy that can handle this. Very strange.
Well, everybody wrote a Dune draft, didn't they?
Right. The other thing I maybe didn't know at the time was that Frank Herbert did rewrites on 1980's Flash Gordon.
Whoa!
Yeah. So that must have been the start of his relationship with De Laurentiis, or maybe De Laurentiis was already trying to get the Dune off the ground, but they didn't shoot until 3 years later, or
wow,
that
is interesting.
Yeah,
additional Dune connections.
Yes, yes, which somehow I missed last time, or I think it was some of this stuff I've just been learning in recent years.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so this, as we mentioned, there was a serial. The first serial was 1936. It was 13 chapters, and then it was released overseas, as I thought, but maybe also in the U.S. as Rocket Ship in 1938.
Cut down to 1 hour and 10 minutes.
That's right. And then there was a 1966 TV version for the U.S. that was 90 minutes.
Okay.
which I believe was called Spaceship to the Unknown.
Okay.
I might be confusing, messing up all this stuff. I also got a date of 1949 here for Rocket Ship, all one word, which might be a U.S.
I saw that
release.
too. Yeah, I saw that too. That was on the Wikipedia page, wasn't it? I think that was the US release.
Right. So the overseas was Rocket Ship.
But I like I said, I read
Right.
I read an actual I actually read a chapter of a book, downloaded it off archive.org, and it said that it had a US release, and I'm more inclined to trust the book than I am the Wikipedia page.
So 1938 we get Trip to Mars, which is 15 chapters.
That's the sequel serial,
and then
where Ming's back.
Yeah, then we get the Buck Rogers in 39 or 4, maybe 38. Oh, it's 39. Buster Crabbe in Buck Rogers 39. And then we had the third Flash Gordon serial, which was Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe, which was 12 chapters in 1940. And then there was a TV series with Steve Holland in the 50s. And then all the cartoons and other TV series and stuff, which we've mentioned on the previous week. Okay, so this is cut down from 4 hours to 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Which has some strange effects.
Yes.
Like, it is breakneck pace.
Absolutely.
One thing to the next. There's no breathing room.
It does not slow down.
No.
The camera does not linger on anything.
No.
They don't have time.
Yeah.
Reaction shots go, you blink and miss them.
Yes.
You get these really speedy reaction shots.
Yeah, and yet somehow I was hanging on to this roller coaster. I was here for it.
Oh yeah, it's an easy watch.
It really is. So we get our opening credits as based on the newspaper feature entitled Flash Gordon, owned and copyrighted by King Feature Syndicate. There's no mention of Alex Raymond in the credit.
Right.
Directed by somebody named Frederick Stephani. Don't know who that is. Okay, so we start with these two scientists, one of whom is named Professor Gordon. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that his son is Flash Gordon. This is a detail that's not in the early years of comics. Certainly wasn't by the time this movie came out. Interesting addition, which fills in some holes that we had with the comic strip and with the 1980 movie in terms of how's he able to pilot this thing, how does he know how to work this thing. There's a little bit of...
because his dad's a professor.
His dad's a professor. Maybe he's inherited... a bit of this knowledge. He's been hanging out with Dad.
That's not how inheritance works, but
no, but you know,
yeah, it's fine. I'm okay with it.
He's a bit brainy, maybe.
Yeah,
he's not just a big jock.
Well, we only know that he's a polo player. I mean, that's a rich man's sport.
Yes.
So he's presumably he's had an education.
Yeah. Well, he's been to Yale. He's a Yale graduate.
Ah, that's right. He is, isn't he? Yeah. So what did he study at Yale? I don't know.
That's a good question. We don't know what...
If they don't tell us, then it can explain any kinds of knowledge that he has later on.
That's true. Okay, so the scientists witness this planet approaching Earth through the telescope, and Professor Gordon gets telegrams from people saying that there's panic all over the world about this. And we get shots a little bit similar to the comic, including in, Arabic nations or... maybe Africa, to Shanghai we get in there.
We get some stock footage of people running through streets.
Stock footage of panic, but it's like less racist than the comic. It's handled
100%.
pretty well.
They're not described as howling blacks.
No, we don't get like savage tribes, that kind of stuff. We did one of the telegrams reads Arabs in frenzy, chaos. So meanwhile, Professor Gordon says his son is on the way. He has a very mild reaction to the world ending. He's like, well, the world's ending. And Flash will be here soon and we'll be together.
That's what he says. He said, Flash has left his polo match.
Yeah.
Hoping to be with us before the end.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Let's guess if you're going to cancel your polo match, it better be for a good reason.
Yeah.
Spending your last minutes with your dad.
Yeah. So we get the plane. It's actually full of people. It's not just 2 people in this case. This is a plane with maybe 10 people in it.
Not the most convincing plane set.
No, it looked a bit like the plane in Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like these chairs look like deck chairs.
They are, I'm pretty sure they are deck chairs.
But the plane's being battered around like crazy, and the steward comes out and he's like, okay, there's actually parachutes under the seat, so if you want, you can jump. And everybody panics and jumps. He says, if you wish, but nobody stays. And Flash actually has to grab Dale. She's a bit scared of jumping. He's like, let's go. And they parachute down, and they land in a field next to this rocket. Now, in the earlier scene with scientists, they had been talking about Zarkov's experiment to launch a rocket. They're like, that's crazy. That's never going to work.
Yep.
That was good, because we don't know why Zarkov was working alone in the comic strip.
Yeah.
Or in 1980. Why is he the only one working on this issue?
Yeah.
Why is he the only one that knows about it? Why isn't he notified me? Actually, everybody knows about it.
Because he's a crackpot, and he's not trying to deflect. This time he's not trying to deflect the rocket.
That's right.
Instead, he has an equally harebrained, but still more plausible...
Yes.
Slightly more plausible explanation, which is that he can tell that through examining the planet that it is both inhabited and highly radioactive.
Yes.
But those two answers make him think that there's something he can do if he can get up there.
Yeah.
Either, like plead with the inhabitants or take over and make use of the great power that must be available because of its high radioactivity.
Yeah. So he's not just trying to ram this thing out of the way. He's not trying to ram it.
You can't ram a planet with a rocket ship.
But when Flash arrives, he's suspicious, but then he recognizes him by name. He's like, are you Professor Gordon's son? And he's like, look, I need help piloting this rocket. Come with me. We're going to die if we stay here anyway. Yeah. And Flash is like, I want Dale to come with us. He's like, no, she can't come. And he's like, I'm not doing it unless Dale comes. And he's like, all right. So we've got reasons, kind of, for them all to be on this rocket. Much better than the comic strip ever gave. Yeah. Which was this.
And this is something it's in common with the 1980 film as well.
Yeah.
Because Zarkov in that film wants their assistant again. Perhaps it's something that this serial originated and maybe was carried over to subsequent adaptations.
Yes. I think there's definitely stuff in here that carries over.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
We speculated 2 years ago that perhaps the 1980 film drew more heavily on this than it ever did on the comic. And I think, well, we can come back to that, but I'm all science.
But there's stuff here that's note for note out of the comic as well.
100%.
But there's a great line here where they're flying up where Flash says, have you run models of this? And Zarkov's like, yes. And Flash is like, did they come back? And he's like, they weren't meant to. Like,
good line.
It's a one-way trip.
It's a good line.
It's pretty good. Okay, now we get to Mongo, and we get these iguanas that are done in like spiky makeup. They've stuck spikes on these iguanas, and they've shot a miniature of the spaceship, so it looks like these are the giant dinosaurs that appeared in the comic as soon as they crash landed.
The first thing that happened when
they start fighting each other.
Yep.
I don't know how they get these iguanas fight. Maybe they naturally fight each other. I don't know. I love this.
Yeah,
I really love these. At first I was like, this is ridiculous when you see the iguanas. Then you see them use the model shot of the rocket and you're like, okay, now I see what they're doing. And it's like super fun and like...
It does look good. It didn't hurt the quality of the video. I mean, the quality of the film has degraded, obviously, since the 30s. And we were also watching it on pretty low resolution, about the size of a postage stamp.
Yeah.
And on that, I mean, it's looking pretty rad.
Yeah.
And because of the black and white, I mean, you can't really tell. Like these iguanas, they've stuck little like plasticine or something on them. And they've made them up to make them look like dinosaurs. Because it's black and white, you can't tell. Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's all working in its favor. The ship lands. I think that they don't crash. They just land as they're supposed to because he doesn't want to crash. And nobody's killed in this version or is presumed dead. They don't leave Zarkov behind. They're all fine. But then, so as the two dinosaurs are fighting, then the Ming's minions show up, as in the comic.
Just like the comic.
And
he's even dressed the same. The costumes
the costumes are the same design from the comic. They're taken prisoner, taken to Ming's throne room.
The original Ming the Merciless.
Yes.
Played by Charles Middleton.
Charles Middleton, yes.
Brilliantly.
Yes.
I can read a quote. This might have been from that book I read, or it might have been from a review from, I think, the Library of Congress that I downloaded. But it said, Charles Middleton as Ming. He was an awesome emperor of Mongo, from his glistening head to his ornate footwear, who could switch from keen interest in the diabolical doings of the scientists in his laboratory to an equally keen interest in the slender charms of Dale Arden, without losing a beat or a particle of majesty.
Yeah. I actually like Jean Rogers as Dale Arden in this as well.
She's not got a lot to work with, but
she doesn't, but she's fine, and she has an interesting deep voice.
Yes, that's right.
I found quite...
It's really deep.
There's something I don't know. It was something magnetic about it.
Absolutely.
That every time she spoke, I was like, I leaned in to listen.
She was allowed to have a deep voice, and she didn't have to speak in a breathy...
Yeah, and some kind of chirpy voice or something. She had a very... Yeah, it was really interesting, actually.
She's also in a Secret Agent X9 serial.
Is she? Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw on Wikipedia that she mostly did, like, serials. Like, that was her main gig. Okay, so they're taken before Ming. Ming is immediately like, oh, I want to marry her.
Yep.
His daughter, Aura, comes out at this stage, a little bit earlier than in the comic.
Yep.
One of the greatest moments in cinema history happens here, where Dale gives Aura the stink eye, and then we cut to Aura looking at Flash lustfully.
Yeah.
It's really great, like...
It's good.
Split second. There's no dialogue, it's just them looking at each other, rolling their eyes, or like... You know, just these amazing reaction shots from these two actresses.
It's certainly, this is post-code. Priscilla Lawson, who plays Princess Aura, is so busty that the censors ordered reshoots with a less revealing costume.
Really? I thought her costume was revealing as is. I was surprised.
Even more revealing before, apparently.
Actually, this movie's full of skin, men and women. Because usually, as in the comics, they're just wearing short shorts. The men are wearing short shorts.
Yeah, they got their legs
and
out.
no tops. They got their legs out. It's like they're at the beach all the time.
Even Zarkov says got his legs out.
Yeah, even Zarkov, the scientist, is at the beach.
They put him in some short shorts.
You know, and by the time Dale gets captured by Ming and forced into his wedding, she's in a bikini top as well, and like...
Very sheer.
Yeah.
Much more sheer than Princess Aura's.
Yes, yeah. I was constantly shocked by what was going on with this.
But very much like the comics, the costume that she wears in the comic.
That's right.
Dale,
That's right. That's exactly.
Which looks very much like the outfit that Princess Leia wears in the Return of the Jedi.
Yes, I'm sure he was drawing from Princess of Mars, which, of course, they were fully nude, supposedly, in Princess of Mars. But that's why there was never a movie version of that, maybe.
I have read Princess of Mars. I don't remember the nudity.
As my memories that...
But this Flash Gordon is very much like Princess of Mars.
Absolutely. So he says, Ming says Flash has to fight in the arena.
Yep.
And
Just
we
like
get
that.
these four lumbering oaths. It's very much like in the comic. We get these four beasts that come out.
Yep. Sort of beastly
hulking man. In this version...
Princess Aura says, if he survives, he's mine.
Yeah.
And Bing just says, if.
Yes. Aura runs down to the arena, and Ming's angry about this. He opens a trapdoor, and they fall through. Now, in the comic, after the arena fight, he comes up, or he like leaps up to attack Ming or something, and then that's the first time we see Aura. We hadn't seen her before the arena, and she's like, "No, he belongs to me," or whatever. And then Ming drops them both down a pit, which is up there in his observation booth, which I think makes less sense than having a trapdoor on the arena floor.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, the important thing is that they both fall down this hole.
Yes.
Into the Hole of Horrors or something.
Yes, it's called Hole of... It sounded rude, whatever it was. But I thought it just made a bit more sense for her to run down there and for them to fall through. Right there. He's not in a big observation. He's just in his throne in this movie, of course. So they end up down in this cave. She leads him out, just like in the comics. She takes him to a rocket ship, which he gets in and finds some spaceman clothes, which is just how it happens in the comics.
And she locks him in. In this case, because they couldn't afford a lock for the door, she just shuts the door and then kicks away the stairs.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like that would stop him.
Yeah, Flash Gordon.
It's like
star polo player can't get out.
He can't get out. It's a footstool. It was a footstool that led up to the door of the rocket ship.
Yes,
she kicks it away. Trapped.
Yes.
That made me chuckle.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, he doesn't try the door or anything. Okay, so he's also... Ming has got Zarkov captive.
Yes.
Another thing that happens in this movie, again and again, might have been less noticeable in serial form, but every faction wants Zarkov.
Yep.
Even though this is a highly developed scientific society, they need this Earthman scientist. But also at this point, or a little bit earlier, Ming said, Zarkov says your planet is going to collide with ours and we'll both die, which is something that never comes up in the comic, that Mongo itself will be destroyed. And Ming says, no, I control this planet. There will be no collision.
Actually, surprising... only a little of their technology is on display.
Yes.
It's less obvious that they're fantastically advanced.
Yeah.
To be honest, it wasn't super obvious even in the comic. It's more a thing that I associate with the 1980 film.
Right, because they've got the rocket sleds.
Yeah, they've got all this wonderful technology, like robots.
Oh, and his magic ring. Ming had that ring that he could do anything with.
I said that they were just so absurdly advanced that their technology wasn't even visible anymore, and it was encapsulated in, like decorative items.
Yes.
I really like that about the film.
Yeah.
This, on the other hand, they don't have the budget. Well, they do have the budget, but maybe they just don't have the inclination to have a lot of... I mean, there's laboratories.
Yes.
There is a laboratory. It's reused from Frankenstein.
Okay.
From the Frankenstein movie.
Okay.
They've got one of those arcing...
Yes.
Those electric arcs, the Jacob ladders or whatever they're called. No expense spared.
Yeah.
But yes, despite being ostensibly from a more advanced culture, everybody wants Zarkov much more than they want Flash Gordon, actually.
Yeah.
In this one. It's mentioned that Flash will get his own kingdom in a kind of throwaway line.
Much later, yeah.
But it's very much not the focus of the film.
No. And Ming also, at this stage, wants to destroy Earth, but I don't know if he says why. But Zarkov cleverly says, why destroy it when you can conquer it? And that buys him some time.
Yeah. That's right.
Now, suddenly there's this faction that's going to attack Ming's city.
Yep. It's the Lion Men.
It's the Lion Men, and for some reason, Flash Gordon decides to fly up and fight them. I don't know why he doesn't have any skin in this race. Why does he need to... He sees some spaceships flying in, he's like, oh, I'm going to defend Ming's city? What is he thinking here?
Maybe he's thinking Dale.
Is he worried that Dale's going to be destroyed in the blast?
I think in the comic it specifically says that Dale was in the city, and that was why he was doing it. Because he does something similar in the comic.
Right.
And he even says to Prince Thumb, if you'd got... It's lucky you were shot down, because if you'd got through, Dale would have been killed. So I would assume that maybe in the serial...
Oh, you're right. There would have been better explanation.
I would say so.
Okay. Yeah, so Prince Thun, or King Thun, who's the leader of the Lion Men, shows up exactly like in the comic.
He looks exactly like him, except he doesn't have a tail.
And he doesn't say, oh, you're a white man.
Oh, thank goodness.
We don't get that in this movie every time he
But otherwise, he's got the same hair.
Yes, yeah.
It's great.
Looks the part. But he enlists Thun's help to get back into the city to rescue Dale. And meanwhile, Ming is building a machine to change Dale's mind and make her willing, which happens in the comic as well. In the comic, there's a specific point where Ming says, our people have no...
kind feelings, mercy.
No mercy or
because
compassion.
You need to be like me in order for us to have a stable
But of course, Aura does have all those feelings, so it's not clear what the heck he's talking about.
I think Alex Raymond knew what the heck he was talking about.
Exactly.
It's just something. It's just the situation that needs to be resolved next week.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
the cliffhanger.
Yeah. So Dale has been programmed for this wedding. They see on a monitor screen that there's this exotic dance happening, and they're like, that means the wedding's starting. They get this information from one of the guards. Unlike the 1980 version where they hear, here comes the bride on another planet, and they're like, oh no, the wedding's happening. Here they're like, what is that weird dance? And the guard's like, that means the wedding's starting.
And then the gongs start.
Yeah.
So we are told very specifically that there's going to be, is it 13? Mm-hmm. 13 rings of the gong to finish the ceremony. And on the 13th ring, they will be married.
Yeah.
I don't think Flash has ever told this, but nonetheless... he yells at...
Oh, okay.
He yells at Prince Thun, that gong, we've got to stop it. It's our only chance to save Dale.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you know that?
Well, maybe
he was told in a deleted
scene. 4. Yeah. We don't know.
Save her from what? Being married? What?
Yes.
Why is marriage... Then what? Like, she legally has to stay with him? He already kidnapped her. But I imagine this was another thing. Perhaps, like, we got to get to her before the gongs stop. And then that's where the serial ended, and that's when you had to come back a week later and pay your 10 cents again and see the next episode.
Yes. But, I mean, look, Ming is evil. Later on, she's captured by Voltan, of the bird people, the Hawkmen.
Yep.
And he wants to marry her.
Yes.
I don't know that he's necessarily evil, but...
No.
Across the board here, Yeah, he is a bit sleazy, but I think really the bottom line is these are stories about white women with non-white, the fear of them sleeping with non-white men.
Yes.
And having to put a stop to that ASAP. I mean, as soon as Ming looks at her, it's like, oh, my pretty, Flash Gordon attacks him. Like, full on punches him in the head.
Yeah, you're right.
So they do manage to stop the wedding and escape. Aura's obsessed with him, but meanwhile...
Aura comes with them, yeah.
Yes, that's right. She comes with them. Prince Baron, who we learn in a line of dialogue was the real ruler of Mongo. I was dethroned as a child and Ming killed my father. He says this all in one line. He's dressed like a Roman centurion.
Yep, so that's something they headline around Universal One.
Yeah, I could tell that one for sure I picked up on. He's like, Zarkov, I want you to... I think he wants Zarkov's help for...
He does.
Something?
Because he's found Zarkov in his lab.
Yeah.
Zarkov doesn't know him from Adam. He doesn't know who Zarkov is really, but he just says, yeah, help me get my throne back. It's in your interest.
Well, and he says, yeah, I will help you get Flash and Dale if you help me in my bid for the throne, effectively. And Zarkov swears to it. He's like, I pledge our allegiance.
Yep. Doesn't seem like the smartest choice. This guy could be anyone, but whatever.
So out in the desert, we've got Flash, Dale, Aura, and Thun after they've escaped. But then the Hawkmen land and attack.
The Hawkmen look good.
They look pretty good. Aura says that they are allies of my father.
Yep. Or they're tributary, or...
I don't know, but they don't act like allies.
No.
It's...
I think they're subservient, or...
Yeah.
So they've not been conquered, but, like...
Right.
Ming is the top dog.
Yes.
And they like chafing maybe under his rule, but nominally they're subservient to him.
So they fight these guys, but Baron comes to the rescue. But Thun and Dale are captured by the Hawkmen in this battle. So they get into Baron's rocket.
He has a rocket. He just has his liberty, apparently, despite being a dangerous...
Yeah, he's just walking around. He just walked into Zarkov's lab. He's just hanging around the palace.
This is Ming's lab. This is important location,
And he has a claim to the throne, and Ming's just like, yeah, you can walk around, hang out. Meanwhile, later on, I think Voltan says, I can't go, or Thun says, I can't go to the castle, like I'm an enemy there.
But Baron's allowed to just wander about in his fabulous Centurion outfit.
Yes. The Hawkmen put Dale into a machine again. I can't remember what this machine was supposed to do to her. It's like a glowy science fiction machine. It seems like they're reading her mind or programming her for something.
Yeah, right. And there's a... Voltan is played by, a great big fat guy with a beard.
Yes.
Just like he is in the...
I think they cast Brian Blessed based on this. I mean, he looks like he does in the comic, sure, but Brian Blessed looks more like this guy, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. There's a story that Brian Blessed took a copy of the comic into...
Right.
De Laurentiis or somebody slapped it down and said, "It's bloody me!"
Yes.
Who knows if that's true?
Yeah. Thun has been thrown into the atom furnace.
Yeah.
This is a radium atom furnace. It's called radium furnace or atom furnace interchangeably.
And that's what it was called in the comic. Oh, was it called radium furnace as well? Well, they're shoveling radium into it.
Yeah, okay.
Radium...
Oh, radium's going into the atom furnace. Okay.
So that stuff they're shoveling in...
That looks like coal. It's like they're shoveling coal into these furnaces.
It's basically a big furnace. Like it's a furnace.
Chips of radium. Yeah. Black chips of radium.
Radium is highly radioactive. Mm-hmm. It killed Marie Curie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is when Voltan wants to marry Dale. She's like, I'm not into it. When Baron and Flash show up for the rescue, they turn their melting ray on them.
Yes.
So we've got the same kind of... They haven't come up with new names for stuff.
Yeah.
It's still Blando names like melting ray.
And we see them start to tumble out of the sky.
Yeah.
And then the ship suddenly stops. And it looked like they were going to die, and then they suddenly didn't. And it's because they've been caught in the propulsion beam that keeps the Hawkman city up.
Yes.
This scene seems to make no sense until you remember this is where one of the serials would have ended.
Yes.
With them tumbling out of the sky.
Right.
And then you come next week and they're caught in the beam at the last second.
Yeah, right.
Might have been alright if you had to wait a week in between when you're watching it.
It was weird,
it's like, that's weird.
I don't think we had gotten a clear shot of the floating city at this stage, maybe as well. Because I was kind of like... When it happened, I was like, oh, of course, because their city's floating. But I didn't remember having seen We do get some shots of the floating city later on.
As the rocket's tumbling out of the air, King Voltan is meanwhile he's sort of like advancing on Dale and like chuckling like Harvey Weinstein basically. He's absolutely Harvey Weinsteining her.
Yeah.
He's like forcing her into a corner and grinning at her.
Yeah.
This is one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Ostensibly. Nothing happens though. He backs off and then Thun ends up in the atom smashing furnace.
Yes, well he was already there, but he throws, because he's captured these guys that have come to rescue them, he throws Flash down into the furnace room as well. Right.
Buster Crabbe strips to the waist.
Yes.
He's in pretty good shape for a guy from the 30s.
He was an Olympic swimmer.
Yeah. Very broad chest, well-defined pecs.
Oh, yeah. He's really well cast. He looks really good in the role. He looks like an Alex Raymond drawing.
He does. He's a good-looking guy. I think he's naturally got brown hair, but he dyed it blonde
interesting.
For the role.
Okay. Voltan also wants Zarkov. They need a new energy source. He doesn't want to use the radium anymore.
He's running out of radium, maybe. Or maybe all of his radium shovelers all keep dying of a mysterious illness.
Yes.
So he needs a new system of propulsion. Zarkov's going to invent it.
Yeah.
Zarkov, you just have to get to work discovering an entirely new area of physics.
And on an alien planet where you don't know about any of the substances or how anything works here.
Invent a new, branch of science, please. Yeah. And could you do it real quick because we're running out of radium.
Yes.
And he does it.
He does it. But meanwhile, Flash has a rebellion in the furnace room with all the other slaves working down there.
Yep.
Ming shows up at the Hawkmen city.
Because Aura's with them.
Yes, that's right.
So, and Ming's not happy that Aura has been captured or is just in the Hawkmen city. Yeah. He's not happy, so he shows up. Offers some threats.
Yeah.
I really like Charles Middleton's kind of like Ming voice.
Yeah.
Release my daughter at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I will unleash my armada against you.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. So now Voltan's like, well, these people are my guests or they're my prisoners or I can't remember what it was. So he's like, okay, Ming, so this has to be settled by tournament?
Yeah.
This is the rules?
First, they sort of, I think what happens is, if you're interested, Flash stages a more successful escape. Zarkov is made to hook Flash up to a shock collar, essentially, attached to a manacle on his wrist. But at the last moment, Zarkov pulls it off and attaches it to Flash's shovel instead, which Flash then, at the critical moment, throws into the radium furnace, the atom furnace, and then they all take cover behind a lead shield.
Yeah.
It goes off, and then the city starts to sink.
Yes.
Because the radium generators or whatever have been shut off. Incidentally, they're presumably hiding behind the lead shield to avoid a burst of deadly radiation from the radium.
Yeah.
Flash does not make it over the lead wall before the big flash, so I'm pretty sure he absorbed a fatal dose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. At this point, Ming and Voltan notice that there's this big lurch and the city's sinking and there's panic. They go to the laboratory and Zarkov says, I've done it, I've discovered the new method. Only I can save your city now, but you have to swear to let me and my friends go.
Yeah.
So Voltan says, yeah, of course. He pulls the lever. He really did discover a new kind of beam.
Yeah.
The city's saved.
Yeah.
But Ming's not happy, as he pointed out. He says they're going to be his prisoners or his bride or what have you. Mm-hmm. And Voltan says, but I gave them my word of freedom.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
And Ming's like, fine, we're at odds, so the tournament.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a tournament. If he survives, he can go free. If he dies, he dies.
Also, if the winner gets a kingdom and the bride of his choice.
That's it. But there's only one competitor, and that's Flash.
That is bizarre. Well, the other competitor... This is what makes the next moment even more shocking. He goes into the arena, the door opens, and out comes this huge gorilla monster creature with a huge horn. What did you say it was called?
He's called an oranguthoid.
Oranguthoid.
Or the oranguthoid.
The oranguthoid. Holy moly. This thing was wild. It's a man in a gorilla suit.
Whoever's in the costume is really good too.
Oh, yeah.
He's the Andy Serkis of his day.
And when he appears behind the door, it's a shock. It's such a shock.
He comes out on his knuckles.
Because I'm like, okay, two dudes are going to compete to win a bride and a kingdom.
The oranguthoid
It's going to be a dude. No, it's this creature. By the way, there was an earlier monster in the cave, which was this crabby. It had like crab claws.
Yeah.
Really pretty good, like
It did look
Doctor
good.
Who kind of monster.
Yes. It did look good.
But I mean, we had the iguanas, we had that cave monster, we have this one. The monsters were
Pretty good.
fun. They were a fun time.
Yeah.
This guy, especially in this suit.
Yeah, whoever's in there is earning his pay. But Flash is struggling with him.
Yeah, but there's a crazy thing here.
This is so crazy.
Where Aura turns to someone, was it the priest?
It's the High Priest.
High Priest, and says, "How do you beat the Oranguthoid?" And he's like, "I'll tell you the secret." And she grabs a spear, and she runs out on the battlefield and hands the spear to Flash. Flash stabs the thing. So all you have to do is stab it.
That's the secret weakness
And then
of the
Ming is
Oranguthoid.
like,
who told them the weakness?
somebody found out the weakness. Who did? You saw your daughter run out with a spear. She ran right out in front of everyone.
Also,
Crazy.
the Oranguthoid's weakness was being stabbed.
Yes, it was being
I'm pretty
stabbed.
sure that's everyone's
There's
weakness.
3 crazinesses in a row. First, the Oranguthoid itself. Then its secret death is being stabbed. And then Ming can't figure out who figured out the secret.
Yeah. And he puts the High Priest in charge, the guy who was obviously speaking to his daughter right before she ran out with a spear.
I wonder if there was a cut
Maybe. I don't see
between
how.
episodes somewhere in there that would have
Might have been.
papered
There was
over
a gap
this.
here when he was at the Oranguthoid's mercy.
Yeah. So now...
Yeah, Ming will not let this go, because I think he mentions it at least twice more that someone told
Right.
Flash how to beat the Oranguthoid. It's like, you just had to stab it.
Yep. Okay, so then Flash now has earned the right to marry whoever he chooses. So he's going to choose Dale.
But Ming throws another spanner in the works. He says, well, we can't announce this now. It's not appropriate. The Arena of Death is no place to announce a wedding or announce Flash's freedom. I will give him his freedom in 3 days on the feast day in my palace. So he's pushed it back again. And he has sinister intent. He has no intention of granting Flash his freedom.
Yeah.
He wants him to be disposed of, and he tells the High Priest to do it. So the High Priest then goes to Aura, who he finds spying on Dale and Flash.
Across a hallway, which reminded me very much of the De Laurentiis version.
Yeah.
That hallway scene. Was there even some spying in that scene? It looked very similar. So sorry, go on.
Oh, so as you say, then, Aura's grumpy because Flash and Dale are being affectionate with one another.
Yeah, he's obviously going to marry her, but she's not from this planet. Why does she have to abide by their rules of marrying him because of the tournament? I guess she
wants to. Hopefully she wants to. Hopefully she does. Her wants never come into it.
In this version, I mean, it would have been over a longer period than the comic strip. I do like that he never says, "That's the woman I love." He never says that out loud in this version. It seemed maybe a little bit more plausible that they were into each other, maybe just because of the performances of the actors. Because in the comic strip, you're only ever with Flash.
Yeah.
You never get what anybody else is feeling. If Flash isn't in it, you hardly ever get a strip where Flash doesn't appear.
And Flash is, I mean, here in this film as well, in this serial too, there's not really a lot going on with Flash.
No.
He doesn't seem to have any inner life.
No.
Or there's not much depth to him.
No.
He just sort of runs around and punches things a lot.
Yes. Now, much like as he does in the comic.
Yeah.
But maybe it was a performance that somehow I bought it a little bit more.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's so much. The pace is so breakneck, and there's so much else going on that it doesn't really matter.
Like Aura's jealousy is kind of I like how much focus there was on it.
She wants him, and she's used to getting what she wants because she's a princess.
Yeah.
So the High Priest comes to her, and he's got 2 pills. One will put Flash in a deep sleep like a coma.
Yeah.
The other will wipe his memory.
This reminded me of the apothecary in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Except she never actually gives him the one that puts him to sleep.
It was in a serial that was cut out, I have to imagine.
Of course it was.
Has to be an episode that's missing where we get a whole sequence where she comes in with her midriff showing and is like, why don't you have this drink?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
maybe Dale gives her some stink eye, etc., etc.
Also, she's supposed to be there when he wakes up.
Yes.
And then so that she's the first thing he sees,
Yeah.
and he will automatically, imprint on her.
That's right.
Like a baby duckling.
Yeah.
that presumably happened in the missing scene as well, because that never occurs.
Well, yes, you're right. It's very confusing because the next scene that happens in the court, she comes into the throne room and goes up to Ming and says his memories are wiped.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and Ming's like, okay, who do you want to marry? Who are you going to choose as your bride?
And he just stares.
And he stares at them both blankly, like he's having trouble deciding, but in this scene, he's seeing both of them.
Yes. So she couldn't have been the one.
She couldn't have been the one who were print. They both imprint.
Must have been in a missing scene.
Both, yeah.
Must have been in a missing scene.
Yeah.
But it becomes clear that he's attached to her because he, later on he doesn't know who Dale is.
That's right.
Aurora's saying, tell her to go. And, Dale has to go.
Yeah.
So Aurora's got a cause in him.
Yeah. This kind of bedroom stuff all looks very much like the De Laurentiis version stuff as well.
It does?
Okay, so Zarkov has come up with a plan to help Flash. He sends Baron to get Flash. Flash fights Baron, thinking he's some guy that's there to take him away from Aura.
Yes.
But finally they manage to knock him out. They put him in a machine, which causes him to recover his memories. Then Ming's people show up to execute him on the spot, but Zarkov has built an invisibility ray, which turns Flash invisible.
Nobody else, just Flash.
Yeah, he's able to have some hijinks.
Yeah, it's classic, classic invisible person hijinks. Doors opening and closing.
Yeah.
People getting tripped and punched by nothing.
Yeah.
Flash has, in this film, Flash has a preferred move, which is the choke.
Yes. Yeah.
Flash chokes out everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Must be something in Buster Crabbe's swimming background.
He's just likes choking people.
Yeah.
he chokes out Ming. He arrives in his throne room. Ming is sitting on his throne, and he just starts choking him. And the actor Charles Middleton is just like, why are you just standing there while he's attacking me?
Yeah. And we hear Flash's voice speaking.
Yeah.
So Aura's like, well, I'm going to go spy on them and figure out what's going on. And there's a panel in the wall of the lab that's like 4 inches by 4 inches, just open. It's like a little mini door. There's there for no reason. And she drops a microphone down through it on this very thick cable. It's very visible. In fact, they just, later on, some characters turn around and see it. They're like, oh, we're being listened to.
That's right. It's Baron. He sees it. He sees this enormous microphone that she lowers through the hole, and he takes her below to some secret caves.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the plan is that they're going to go to Zarkov's rocket, and they're going to fuel it with energy canisters.
Right.
So we get a funny scene where Zarkov struggles to lift one energy canister, and an invisible Flash picks up the other one easily, and we just sort of see it lift up on a string, bob along behind Zarkov, like bumping into his back, and Flash is saying things like, I'm right behind you, Zarkov, and you should hurry up, Zarkov, I'm bumping into you.
Yes.
But we get it.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Baron has taken Dale to hide her because he knows that their plan has been overheard.
Yeah.
He hides her in the catacombs.
Yeah.
Aura knows that they've done that. I assume she wants Dale to kill her, maybe, or get her out of the road. So she goes to this priestess, the priestess of the tigers.
Yes.
This priestess has a tiger. There are tigers on planet Mario.
They don't have horns or anything. It's just regular tigers. Unlike all the other creatures, this is a regular old tiger.
This is a regular tiger. The Universal have called up their tiger guy.
Yes.
Because there's a real goddamn tiger in this movie.
Yeah. And maybe they said, can we put a horn on it? And the tiger guy was like, no.
No, you cannot put a horn on the tiger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not if you want to keep your face.
No, unlike the iguanas or the man in the gorilla suit or the crab creature in the cave, this is a real-ass tiger.
But they even call it a tiger.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the thing is, this is a tiger. This is like a bloodhound tiger. It's going to sniff out where Dale is hiding.
That's right.
Because they can't find her otherwise, because these are the catacombs. Only Prince Baron knows them. Maybe because of his heritage. Maybe he was shown them by his dad before his dad was killed.
Right.
So there's a great bit where they have the real live tiger. We see Aura and the priestess in close-up, and then we get a very, very distant shot where the priestess is almost certainly a man.
Right.
In drag.
Yeah.
Because she's the one that's wrangling, he is the one that's wrangling the tiger.
Yes.
And then there's another actor standing nearby.
Yes.
Again, not the same actors. And we'll sort of get close-ups of the priestess holding a leash.
Yeah.
And then back out to the very distant shot.
Yeah. And then the tiger attacks and Flash arrives just in time and wrestles the thing.
Well, the guy, this time it's the guy dressed up as Flash Gordon. It's presumably the same guy, the tiger tamer.
I don't think it's a real tiger in most of these shots where he's wrestling it. Well...
Sometimes it definitely is.
Okay.
Like he's wrestling the tiger.
Yeah,
But it's very obviously not Buster Crabbe.
Right,
It's a guy in a wig.
Right.
But then we get close-up shots of... It'll be very obvious, very obvious old-timey, distance shot to a close-up of Buster Crabbe kind of going, and you can just sort of see him from above the waist, kind of playing with a toy tiger, and then it'll go back out to this actual hapless animal trainer actually having to play with his tiger. Takes guts.
So Baron figures out that this was Aura that did it. He doesn't figure it out. Everybody knows it happens 3-4 times in this movie where people are like, this must have been Aura. When the pills happened to Flash, Thun was like, that must have been Aura that made him lose his memory. And this time, Baron's like, that was your tiger, I'll bet you. This has got your fingerprints all over it.
Yep.
And he's like, look, you'll never win Flash by killing Dale. That will just make him hate you. Yeah. You have to be nice to him.
I made friends with them by helping them.
Yes.
So you should try that.
That's right. And she's like, okay. She just does a complete heel turn in this moment. And she says, look, I'll intercede with my father, come to the court, and we'll sort this all out. Why would they go back to Ming's court at all? I couldn't really... Well, they're like, well, okay, let's do this by the book.
They're already fueling up their ship to get away. There's no reason for them to go back up.
No.
But because we need them to do that for the next scene to happen.
Yeah.
They go back up.
Ming is engaged in a video space battle. By the way, the spaceships look like the gyros from the comic. They've just taken that design. They look like spinning tops.
They look really stupid.
Yeah. But I don't know what faction this was that was attacking him.
It's Thun's people.
Oh, it is Thun. That's right. That's right.
The gyros.
You're right. Okay. So he's busy fighting them. Flash and his crew show up. There's a fight. Ming gives up? Just gives up and decides to kill himself?
Yeah.
Maybe he realizes the fight is lost. He doesn't have a chance at this stage?
Something like that. And he goes down to the temple. They go to the temple of the great god Ko, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I can't remember, yeah.
And there are these big doors. We see a silent conversation between Ming and the high priest. Ming then goes up to the doors, sort of makes obeisance, spreads his arms wide.
Yeah.
The doors open, there's a smoke machine behind there. He goes in, the door closes, then Flash and, Baron and Dale show up. Where's Ming? And the high priest says, Ming is dead.
Yeah.
He's gone through to the realm of the great god from whom nobody returns.
Yeah.
That's the end.
That's the end of him, yeah. Except for the sequels, for some reason.
I guess you can come back from the realm of the great god Ko.
Yeah. So,
it's very anticlimactic.
Yeah. Zarkov radios Earth. He has been in contact with Earth before. It's not the first time.
With the two professors.
Yeah.
Who apparently are the representatives of Earth.
Yeah.
We're not paying more actors.
Well, I think they're the ones with the radio setup that can receive this transmission, maybe.
But there seems like there's an operator.
Yes! There's like
there's an operator.
There's a telephone operator that's communicating back and forth.
He's relaying the messages between the professors and
Very
Zarkov.
odd.
Who is this radio operator?
Very strange.
Hello, operator. Can you put me in contact with Planet Mongo, please?
Yeah, amazing. And then the operator will tell the Earth people, you've got a call coming in from Mongo. And it goes, this guy's there for the whole conversation.
Good telephone service.
Yeah.
Now we've got...
It's interesting because you can see that they couldn't conceive of how telephone would work any other way except through an operator, right?
Right.
They just didn't have like the foresight to think, they could just have a conversation back and forth.
Why wouldn't they just have a conversation?
Yeah.
Why would you need an operator? Maybe there's something missing in one of the serials. Maybe they get in contact with a ham radio operator and he has to relay the messages.
I don't know.
Who knows?
But the high priest overhears this phone message, so he plants a time bomb in the spaceship. Honestly, I thought they might crash at the end and be stuck on Mongo. That would make sense in terms of the comic strip and
Flash Gordon stories. This was just the penultimate serial.
Yeah.
So we needed one more cliffhanger.
Right.
Before episode 13.
Right. So there's a time bomb on the ship. They take off, but they find out because the high priest is gloating about it.
Yep.
That the people on on Mongo, like Thun, Baron,
Princess Aura,
Voltan, they all hear from the priest that like there's a bomb on the ship. So they have to radio the ship as it's going away.
They don't need an operator though.
Yeah, no, they don't, and they need to tell Flash that there's a bomb on board. Flash and Dale finally kiss, I think, at this point.
They have kissed already when Aura was spying on them.
Oh, right, that's right.
But yeah, so Flash has to defuse the bomb.
Yeah.
Which he does with aplomb.
Yeah.
And then, do they drop it out the side? Is that what happens?
I think so.
And then they go back to Earth.
And they return to... Oh, this is when they have their big final kiss at the end.
Right.
Once they land on Earth, that's right.
That's right. This bomb thing, it can only be in here but nothing happens after the bomb goes off.
That's right.
It makes me wonder what that 13th serial happens in that 13th serial.
Maybe that was the 13th.
But it seems to me that bomb thing would have been a cliffhanger for maybe episode 12, and then episode 13 is when they wind it up.
Yeah.
Maybe they go back to Earth or something. I don't know. But here's where it ends. It pretty much ends after the bomb's gone off.
And that was an hour and 10 minutes, and it's just non-stop.
Yep.
Okay, do we have any trivia about
There's no time for any downtime because...
No. They've cut out the downtime. There might have been downtime, and it's all been trimmed out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, trivia. All right, okay, so this cost $350,000 in 1930s dollars. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
This was a very big sum for a movie serial. Most serials cost less than half that.
Okay.
And even feature films usually didn't cost more than $250,000 at the time. So this is like a huge budget to spend on a serial. Also, this is interesting because serials are actually on the wane at this point.
Okay.
Kind of like the heyday of serials is silent cinema.
Right.
And the 1920s. By the 1930s, feature films are starting to be...
Oh, I see.
And be like the hour movies that we've seen, like Harold Teen and things like that.
Yeah.
That's starting to be the dominant kind of film form. But this was a really big success.
Okay.
And in fact, probably revived the serial as a medium for a few years.
Okay.
Because there were a few other big ones after this one as well. So there are obviously the Flash Gordon sequels, and there's the Buck Rogers one, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it was sort of like, this was its last hurrah.
Right.
They used to be called cliffhangers, movie serials.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Let's go and see a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Right.
Because they always ended the same way.
Right.
Yeah. That seems to be where the word cliffhanger comes from.
There must have been one with a literal person hanging by their fingers off the end of a cliff.
Yes. Yeah. And that's apparently where we get that word.
Right.
And of course, they then go on to have these ones in particular, these Flash Gordon ones, go on to have a very lively second life on television.
Yes.
Where, especially in the 1950s, they were shown every week.
Right.
Like a TV show.
Yes.
They were just shown over and over.
Yeah,
they were shown on TV well into the 1980s, apparently. And of course, this is where people like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were exposed to this because, of course, famously, Star Wars is heavily inspired by...
Well, wasn't he trying to get the rights to make a Flash Gordon movie? And then King Features was like, no. And he was like, well, I'll go make my own
I'm going to make my own Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
With Slave Leia.
Yeah.
With metal bikinis and...
It's interesting because, if I can open a tab on this, it's the opposite of THX. THX starts with a clip from a Buck Rogers serial.
Right.
And then turns into... You get a 3-minute clip from Buck Rogers, and then you get this horrific dystopian future. And it's like... Almost like George Lucas saying, well, that serial stuff is nonsense. This is what it's really going to be like. And then, 5 years later, he's like, actually...
I love that shit.
I rescind my previous opinion... That stuff was good. I shouldn't have gone so dark.
Right.
This was the good stuff. And then he makes his own Flash Gordon when he can't acquire the rights. Interesting.
But yeah, the fact that Dale's wearing a costume that looks so much like Leia's outfit in Return of the Jedi, I was like,
Yeah.
There you go. As I mentioned, this reused a lot of... Despite costing so much, I mean, they used a lot of stuff that they had on the Universal lot. So the arena was a prop from another film. The laboratory was from Bride of Frankenstein, not from Frankenstein.
Okay.
The big idol that they pray to, you obviously noticed that it was an Egyptian sarcophagus.
Okay.
That was from The Mummy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the one that they push over onto them. Which in the comic too, they push over the idol of the monster of the god in the comic too. And they reused... Now, I'm not sure how much of this made it into Rocket Ship, But in the serial, they reused a lot of musical themes from Universal films. So music from Bride of Frankenstein, from The Invisible Man, from The Black Cat, from Werewolf of London. They were just like reusing musical themes or musical stings from those properties.
So it sounds like James Whale is doing all the work, and then Flash Gordon is just profiting off of it effectively.
I guess so. Yeah, but I mean, you can see where the money went. They've got some elaborate costumes.
Yeah. The costumes and stuff are
pretty
great.
good.
The effects were fun. I mean, they were as good as Ed Wood in the 50s, sometimes better.
Oh, yeah.
Like the rocket ship stuff was better.
Yeah.
And, I think the monsters were as good as any Doctor Who monsters.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. Buster Crabbe, as we mentioned, was all over the 30s in all kinds of comic book properties.
Yeah.
He was famously Tarzan, although it's not a comic book, but he was...
But the strip was pretty famous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And Buck Rogers as well. Charles Middleton, we mentioned, played Ming brilliantly. I love his sinister kind of like energy that he's got.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He came to play, for sure.
He started his film career at age 46, that actor.
Really?
Yeah, so it's never too late. Hollywood.
Huh.
I'm only 44. He often played Abraham Lincoln, because apparently he looks quite a bit like him.
Oh, interesting.
He appeared in nearly 200 films, despite starting so late, including Dick Tracy Returns and Jiggs and Maggie in Court, the final the final Bringing Up Father film in 1948.
Whoa, okay.
Speaking of Bringing Up Father, the actor that plays Voltan, not Harvey Weinstein, he's a guy called Jack Lipson, nicknamed Tiny, for obvious reasons.
Okay.
He was in Bringing Up Father.
Oh, right.
The film we watched.
Yeah, right.
In an uncredited role as Fat Man.
I just want to say one thing about Middleton. Every time I looked at it, there's a picture of him, when you Google him, the first picture you see, he's a spitting image of Paul McGann.
You reckon?
At that age. Something about it was really unusual. Anyway.
Paul McGann could be playing Abraham Lincoln there.
Yes. Or Ming, I guess.
Or Ming. And now that Max von Sydow's passed away, he's not going to be reviving that role. That's it for trivia.
Okay. So I guess it's votes time.
Yep.
It's interesting that you said you enjoyed the art more this week. I've enjoyed the art in Flash Gordon for many years. I really struggled to read the strips this week. I tried to... I said, I'm going to try to read maybe 40 or... I'm just going to read a bunch. And I was like, oh boy, I know how these go. I started just kind of looking at the pictures, didn't need to read the captions.
That's pretty much what I did too.
And had a hard time with it.
I've struggled through enough Sheena...
Yeah.
and Skippy and other shit that I really enjoyed Alex Raymond's art. Oh my god, this is so much better than I remember. But I certainly didn't read them in any detail, and I was just skipping through and looking at pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the best way to consume it, I think.
So
especially from year 2 to 10. Yeah.
But I'm going to retain my nay vote, but tempered by the fact that I definitely enjoy the art.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a better appreciation for the art now as a more seasoned comic book reader than I was 2 years ago.
Right. Okay. This movie, this is a yay for me.
Excellent.
I had a good time. It's crazy. I don't know if it's good by normal standards of how we talk about plot, character, dialogue, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't give you enough time to think about the stupidity of it. I had a good time, so it's a yay for me. I think I liked it more than the 1980 version.
Whoa, that's wild.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The 1980 version I just love.
Yes, but you may remember I was quite lukewarm on it, but I went yay on
That's
80.
right. You did eventually.
Somehow this is more forgivable because of the black and white and the era it came out of. I permitted it, those flaws.
I agree with much of what you said, but for me, it's a nay.
Okay.
It's very obvious that there's so much chopped out.
Yes.
You can really tell. And films aren't meant to be at 90 for the whole running time.
Yeah, right.
But there's so much about it I like. The miniature work is really good.
Yeah.
The outfits are really great.
Yep.
Exactly like the comics.
Yeah.
These blokes are not afraid to show their legs.
Yep.
You know, well, they weren't in 1980 either. You know, like Brian Blessed and all of his crew were in their leather shorts.
But then, at least some people, like Timothy Dalton, would wear pants. Some people had
Timothy
pants.
Dalton's not wearing fucking...
You know, Max von Sydow had pants. Here, definitely, nobody gets pants.
No, you don't get pants. Half of them don't get shirts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the monsters look fine, especially the Oranguthoid.
Yeah.
Like I said, whoever's in that costume was the Andy Serkis of the 1930s. Because he knew what he was doing, and it looked really organic and cool.
Yeah.
But, too banging through too quick. Yeah. Very obvious missing content.
Yeah.
And none of our heroes get any motivation either.
Yeah.
The motivation is all the villains, and our heroes are just kind of reacting a lot of the time.
You're right. I guess Zarkov...
But then that's like the comic.
It is, yeah.
Which I guess brings us to adaptation.
Okay. I think this is a great adaptation.
I thought you would.
I think it's... I was shocked by how much... Because this is only 2 years after the strip has started.
Yeah.
So they can just go panel by panel. Here's the trapdoor. Here's the 4 guys in the arena. Every little thing. Here's the costume. Don't waste time designing a costume. Just look at it on the page. It's been done for us.
Yeah. That was Steadman, the guy who wrote that book I mentioned. He thought that this got Flash Gordon got an adaptation before Buck Rogers, at least in part because Alex Raymond's art was more cinematic, and people just saw how this could translate into film more easily. The other reason was that Buck Rogers' star was more on the wane at this point, and Flash Gordon's was in the ascendance.
Right. So how are you voting on
with adaptation? I don't want to talk about 1980.
Okay.
So I completely understand why you vote yay, because this is... It looks like they shot the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, everyone acts the way they do in the comic, basically.
Yes, but I do think they've improved bits of the plot as 1980 did. They've given us some explanations of things that
they did
were just ignored by Alex Raymond.
Yes, so I will vote yes as well. Yay.
Okay.
I vote yay too, because the stuff's there. I mean, it looks like...
Yeah.
I mean, I can celebrate when accuracy as well as reinvention. And it's cool how accurate a lot of this is, especially the costumes. Man, it's funny. It's cool seeing grown men wandering around in those little shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you said, they stitched up a few... Even in 2 years after the comics started coming out, they've stitched up a few of the plot holes.
Yeah.
I just would be interesting to see how it looked like in 13 episodes. And
that's true too.
But yeah, I'm going to vote yay.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a game?
Okay.
Spot where the cliffhangers were.
Oh, okay. This is gonna be tricky.
Well, we have a quick crack at it. As I already said, I think the bomb was one, and I think the rocket ship falling after being hit by the melting ray was one. Yes.
Okay. I think the iguanas appearing might have been one at some point during the iguana appearance.
That Doctor Who monster they met in the tunnels.
Yes.
When Flash is being squeezed by the claw.
Yeah.
And then Thorne has to rescue him with a laser. I'm pretty sure that was one.
Okay.
So Flash in the claw.
Yes. Maybe when they go down the trapdoor.
Oh, right. And then there's monsters we barely see, and then it's all resolved very quickly. The water lizards.
Yes.
Yeah. That would be one.
I forgot about the water lizards.
Yeah, so did this film.
Yes.
They're probably in the series.
I would say before the 13th gong of the wedding bell.
Yeah, I reckon.
Might have been one.
How many is that? We need 12.
Yeah. I think we're more than 12 already. I think probably when the Hawkmen first attack.
Right. Or when they carry
because away. Baron has to come to the rescue. Right. So maybe... I think anytime there's a rescue, there was probably a cut before that.
Right. I would say probably any time... When Flash was fighting the Oranguthoid as well. When he was being overwhelmed.
Maybe when he appeared in the doorway, I would have cut there because I'd be like, I wouldn't sleep that night.
That's it.
I'd be like, I have to go back next week to see that thing.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as that door slid open,
and out he comes, boom, 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 on his knuckles.
Yeah. Something during the Furnace Rebellion. I'm not sure where though.
Maybe when Flash throws his shovel in the in the atom furnace, and right before he receives his free chemo.
Yeah.
Not chemo, radiation therapy.
Yeah, maybe
that's pretty exhaustive. I think that's good.
All right. Okay, please like, rate, review, subscribe. Please contact us through the email address in the show notes, or send us a DM or leave a comment on our Facebook group, our Instagram, our Blue Sky, Threads, or even our YouTube channel. All those links are in the show notes. And please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookamovieoblivion. All one word, no spaces. Next week, we will be doing The Phantom from mid-90s at some point. I definitely saw it at the cinema when it came out.
With Billy Zane.
I'm not sure if my memories of it are...
I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through.
Okay, interesting.
Speaking of Billy Zane, if you have any questions for Billy, send them in now.
Yeah.
Because we'll be seeing him on Tuesday.
Yeah, so we're going to a screening. Interestingly, because we had gone to see the screening at the Astor of Flash Gordon. It's just coincidental. So anyway, so Billy Zane will be there, and there will be audience questions, and some people will probably ask him if he wrote the music for the movie and stuff like that, like we had. Did you write the Queen music when we saw Flash Gordon?
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so next week, The Phantom.